In the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress. Welcome to Souq News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, Souq News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. Souq News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, Souq News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. Souq News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions.
My name is Yinka Babalola.
My name is Ijoma Pelokoro.
My name is Joshua Hassan.
I am Rotarian or Mosunde Lawson.
It's Ife Yunwarita Ejeze. My friends call me Ife.
My name is Rotarian Lola Dare.
I'm inviting you to keep watching Souq News. It's the right station to tune to.
I like Souq News. Souq News is good.
I want to charge you all to listen to Souq News, watch the news.
You can have unlimited news first time.
Find Souq News. Be with Souq News. Never switch off. You are better for it. Souq News is the real thing.
Listen to their coverage and you'll be glad you did.
Turn to your YouTube, turn to your Instagram, turn to all your digital channels and look for Souq News.
Keep watching.
Keep watching.
Please, guys, keep watching
Souq News.
In the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress. Welcome to Souq News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, Souq News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. Souq News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, Souq News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. Souq News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development with our conversation. Today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Worldly exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Good morning, welcome to Early Exchange. I am Blessing Aichi. This is the very first edition for this week, and I hope you're ready to get full load of all the goodness that can come from Early Exchange. Now, according to Alexander the Great, there is nothing impossible today. Who will try? Have you given up on your business or even on your personal development, and you've told yourself it's never going to happen good for you or for that business? Well, let me tell you the story of a country that was once on the global crime watch list. The famous, that country is no longer in that list. I'm talking about United Arab Emirates. Now, by the way, that will form discussion this morning. And again, change, they say, is the only constant thing in life, and that's why this morning Idausa Osamanze is here with me and not Femi Ayodele. Good morning, Idausa Osamanze. Good to have you by my side.
Blessings, a pleasure to be here.
How was your weekend?
Very well and lovely. And yours?
It was good, though we're still hoping that someday, sometime, the Friday will be included in weekends.
Yeah.
Am I dreaming?
Don't dream.
All right, to get the show rolling, let's move over now to the news studio where Lovina Emma is standing by to get you updated on current happenings. Hello, Lovina.
Good morning, Blessing. We are glad to have you join us on news updates at this hour. I am Lovina Emma. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has lifted sanctions on Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso during its extraordinary summit in Abuja, citing the imperative of upholding regional unity and security. President of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Omar Toure, noted the consideration of the forthcoming religious observances of Lent and Ramadan and the appeals from influential figures like retired General Yakubu Gowon, acknowledging the implications including political, social, socio-economic, financial and institutional factors for the three countries and the broader ECOWAS region. The decision also reveals the importance of regional cooperation in combating terrorism, violent extremism, and organized crime, with the three nations having previously received significant financial support within this framework. Moving on, Nigeria's Minister of Education, Professor Taher Maman, has urged state education commissioners to implement national standards and strategic plans to improve the secondary education in the country. Speaking at the stakeholders validation meeting in Abuja, he emphasized prioritizing secondary education and adopting the validated roadmap to formulate effective policies for quality education. The minister acknowledged the establishment of the National Senior Secondary Education Commission and called for support from the National Assembly to address funding challenges, while addressing the importance of stakeholders' involvement at federal and state levels in driving the implementation of minimum standards and strategic plans to tackle the learning crisis. He emphasized the need to equip youth with essential skills for societal participation. And away from Nigeria now, Egypt has unveiled a $35 billion investment deal with the United Arab Emirates, aimed at developing the Ras El Hikima Peninsula, marking a significant step towards economic review. And Abu Dhabi Sovereign Investment Fund is set to inject $35 billion into Egypt's economy over the next 2 years, potentially reaching $150 billion. The development project aims to transform Ras El Khaimah into a vibrant investment zone with residential, commercial, and tourism facilities, with construction scheduled to begin in 2025. The agreements between both countries implement policy reforms and prioritize infrastructure projects to attract significant foreign investment amidst economic challenges. And now, the United States aluminum giant Alcoa Corp has proposed a non-binding conditional acquisition of its Australian partner, Alumina, valuing the company at $2.2 billion in an all-stock deal. This move enhances the company's stake in the upstream aluminium business and streamlines governance for both entities, offering Alumina shareholders exposure to the finished aluminium products within a larger corporation. Portfolio manager Simon Mawini of Allan Gray noted that the proposal simplifies the corporate structure, potentially offering significant upside for shareholders of both companies. The proposed deal would see Alumina shareholders receiving 0.02854 shares of Alcoa common stock per share held, implying a value of $1.15 per Alumina share, based on Alcoa's closing price as of February 23rd. Alumina's managing director and CEO, Michael Ferraro, intends to recommend the proposal to shareholders pending the absence of a superior offer. Finally, South Korea has unveiled a reform plan to boost shareholder returns for listed companies inspired by Japan's corporate governance reforms. Despite optimism from the Financial Services Commission market, response was muted as the proposals lacked compulsory measures and tax incentives. The benchmark index fell by 1.42% in the morning trade, with sectors like automakers and banks previously rallying leading the losses. The Commission plans to offer preferential tax treatment for firms, enhancing market value, and introduce an index for companies with strong shareholder value. Financial Services Commission Vice Chairman Kim So-yoon emphasized voluntary reforms, highlighting stronger incentives compared to Japan. South Korea's stock exchange aims to enhance corporate governance, while the National Pension Fund plans to invest in value-focused companies. And in the entertainment sector, Nigeria's cinemas rake in 1.2 billion naira. The Cinema Exhibitors Association of Nigeria has announced that its member cinemas, the nation, generated 1.2 billion naira in January, according to its national president, Okpeyemi Ajayi, who announced this in Lagos. There were 322,833 total viewers in cinemas during the period under review. Ajayi stated that the year started well because Nigerians have maintained the tradition of going to the cinemas to watch movies. And with that wraps up the news updates this morning. I am Lavina Emma. Early Exchange continues after the break.
Thank you, Lavina, for updating us on recent happenings across the globe. And now to a first part of discussion for today, which is on the United Arab Emirates. Let's say we'll be dwelling on the Middle East for the first part of the show, as the UAE recently was dropped from a global financial watchdog's grey list for countries that had not done enough to combat money laundering and terrorist financing. Now, they've been on that list for about 2 years, but on Friday, which was last week, they were removed from that list. And it happened at the end of the 3-day plenary meeting in Paris, where the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, said it had removed the UAE from the list as it had strengthened its financial systems, anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing capabilities. Now, there are other countries in that list. While the UAE was removed, some countries were added to the list. And the UAE is not the only country that was removed. Some African countries, too, were also removed from that list. But let's start with the UAE being removed. What have they done that's made them exit that list? And what could being on that list do to a country's image and even the opportunities, economic opportunities of any country on such list? Idausa Osamenze, who is Director, Research Development, African Development Studies Center, and also in-house analyst at Souq News, is here this morning. I'll be looking at that with me. So, the UAE been removed from the global crime watch list about 2 years after it was put on that list. What had changed?
Well, I think it also speaks to the pragmatism of the foreign minister in United Arab Emirates, which is, of course, a brother to the king. United Arab Emirates are deliberate about how to package their nation before the eye of the world. They understood what the challenges were. UAE is a free destination for wealthy people. A whole lot of people have been flocking into the UAE. Don't forget that after the war between Ukraine and Russia was declared, a whole lot of wealthy people from Russia actually rushed into the UAE as a safe haven. And you can imagine what kind of suspicion this will cause in the West, because you're seeing that your enemy is getting into the camp of your friend, and then you have to be suspicious. And I think these are some of the issues that really, of course, would have orchestrated putting UAE in that list in the first place. So you are saying that, of course, there seems to be danger, because one of the big problems after the September 9/11 attack on the US was clear that some countries across African, Middle East, and Asia had become a kind of a channel for moving funds for terrorists to operate globally. So there's also a concerted effort by the international community, especially European countries, to see that how do we really checkmate that money are not getting into the hands of these terrorists and the rest of it. And of course, people are also not stealing money from their country, and then of course your country become a haven or a destination. So all these things were playing out, but what did the UAE do differently? They had to put in stricter anti-money laundering laws in place and ensure that anti-corruption measures and procedures are put in place. And then, of course, you're watching all the manners of transactions that are happening. Technology also had helped in that direction. So you are able to see yourself before the eye of the UAE. So if you are moving money across the nations, then, of course, the authority are able to say, okay, where's this money coming from? Where is it going? And then, of course, stricter banking regulations and rules were put in place. And, of course, Europe feels safe right now with the United Arab Emirates.
Okay, so when a country is on that list, the crime watch list, what does it mean for the country?
Yeah, of course, it means that you won't be a destination for foreign direct investment or portfolio investment. Nobody wants to come and do business in a very high-risky environment. And this is what people talk about, creating the right ecosystem for businesses. If you're doing well, investors all across the globe are looking at you. Where do I want to put my money? Will I put it in a very risky zone? I either put it where it is safe and comfortable. And this is what countries are doing. Create that system where, of course, you continue to attract funds. Rich people come to your environment, do business with you, you make more money, earn more tax than the rest of it. So that's what it is. If you are on the watch list, it means you are looked up as with suspicion. So even the Western country will not deliberately want to do business with you. And of course, they are necessary evil. You need them, whether you like it or not, no matter how rich you are, because you have to do trade with them to continue to maintain that status. And I think that's what, of course, many countries in Africa have really not put into considerations, because if there's a global collaborations to see how we can stem the tide of terrorism, and we seem to be weak, and terrorist still passes through your system. We don't know which country that can be attacked or what institution will be destroyed by these terrorists, following what happened at the 9/11 attack on the Twin Towers. So this is an issue, and that's why nations have to also be very careful, put on stringent anti-corruption and anti-terrorist measures so that you can gain the trust of investing nations.
All right, talking about terrorists still being able to pass through a country or carry out activities, what are those factors that can make a country a safe haven for terrorists?
Well, weak institutions are one of it. Corruption is also a very strong factor to also look at. The story is told of China, who built a wall around the city so that, of course, they can wall off their enemies. And 2 times in 100 years, Chinese country was attacked, and the people who came to attack came through the gates. And you can imagine what that means, that your soldiers are in the gate and your enemy passes through the gate. This is a problem because the soldiers took money and then allowed the enemy in. So what that means is that if you have people of low value, and then of course they can protect these terrorists. They give you some money, then you allow them to pass. And then you use your state as a launching pad to attack other people. So this is a problem. And so corruption is one of those issues that, and weak institutions that are not able really to check, and you can't put eye on all transactions that are happening. Somebody is putting money in your bank, for example, and you don't check what's this person doing, which company does he run, which trade is he doing, and where is this money coming from and for what purpose. And so when these questions are not asked, it is easier for terrorists to enter into that climb and do business, and then of course continue to trouble the entire globe.
Okay, so the twist is this. While the UAE was removed from that list, some other countries were removed. Barbados was removed from that list. Uganda in Africa was also removed from that list. But 2 other African countries were added, Kenya and Namibia. What had gone wrong?
Well, you see, in the case of Kenya, of course, also don't forget the issue of the geopolitics, which is also playing out, and see Ruto also a very outspoken president right now, and it really does not matter where he goes to, anywhere that he feels that, of course, he can find help, whether it's from the West or from even enemy nations. That's also you have to consider and see this interaction that is also going on between Russia and a whole lot of African countries also could also be responsible for some of all these ills. So we are looking at it in international relations. If you're a friend to my friend, you are my friend. If you're a friend to my enemy, you automatically become my enemy. So some of all these antics, of course, the world is also reading it and reading many into your movement and the statements you make at the global stage. And there's a full condition to see, oh, this guy could be very desperate for money, and then of course he wouldn't mind where money comes, irrespective of whether how clean or dirty that money is.
So it's not necessarily about the anti-money laundering policies and even the fight of the government of that country against terrorism. It could be a thing of alliance.
Yeah.
If they suspect your alliance.
Yeah, you're allying here with the enemy nations. Of course, those are the things that are being read. Yes, you could have the anti-money laundering in place, which of course government says. But if you are dealing with a friend, who of course is your friend and is an enemy of another nation, sometimes you can even lower your guard for those people by way of circumventing even your national laws to accommodate these people. So this is the issue, and this is what, of course, the Western powers will look at.
But does that not put a question mark on the credibility of even the institutions that are acting as the watchdog?
Well, yeah, to some extent it will. You're looking at it that your friend, when the whole argument about SOT 1, SOT 2 were on how people could handle arms, ammunition, nuclear power, and the rest of it, one of the real strong point that was advocated those days was to see how responsible a country is and how responsible its leaders are. So the West say, oh, we know when to use force, we know when not to use force. But there are some people who are so immature, and then of course you cannot trust them with dangerous weapons. That was why you find that a lot of nations were not allowed to handle nuclear powers, because they felt that if it falls into their hand, they can abuse it. So you trust yourself because you are matured. So you will be able to do things and look at them objectively. But your neighbor may not be as mature as you are, also depending on the character of the leader at that particular point in time.
Okay, so for countries now that have been added, and looking at it, it could also be from the new alliance formed. Yeah. And Africa seems to be in romance with some of these Western countries that are befriending it right now. What should they be looking out for? As much as it seems to be this mutual benefit for them. The countries coming to Africa, I'm talking about Russia now, and some of the Western countries trying to befriend Africa, and the African countries receiving the aid, receiving the help, and even the investment coming from there. What should be the look? What should they be looking out for?
Yeah, but I think what African leaders need to do, especially when you interact with people, is to be as transparent as possible. And just be sure that what you're doing is basically economic and nothing more. And when it goes beyond those boundaries, then you close the ties. And be sure that if you're dealing with your enemy and you put your cards on the table, everybody's seeing it, and nobody's going to suspect you. But if you are doing things behind closed doors and behind cameras, sometimes it creates room for suspicion. So I feel that African leaders must be able to really speak for themselves, and we don't need to have to pally people or pat people on the back just to say we want to look or feel good. And that is not how the West behave. The West themselves deal with you based on how relevant those relationships are to their economic survival. And I think that's what Africans should be doing. I was happy when our president was speaking with the meeting he had with some businessmen and governors about how to revive the economy. And he said he's really only worried about what Nigerians say, not what other people are saying. And I think that is a kind of outlook that most African leaders really need to take. So it really does not matter who is God, that the fact that you are in a watch list of certain nation is not what really matters, but the survival of your country is critical. And international relations is not really about global politics. It's actually about the extension of your domestic policy. How what you're doing affects your people directly. Well, of course, the West may not be happy about it, and they don't need to be happy at all time. But what that means is that they may not be bringing money to you. And this is where Africans need to really work hard, so that you don't go into negotiation as a weak partner, but you are strengthened enough by the resources you have in your hand to actually also challenge the West and say, look, we are a sovereign nation. We have the right to determine the fate of our policies, and we really don't care whose odds is God.
Taking a look at some countries that are on the watch list, you find that some of them are developing nations or underdeveloped nations. What does that say about the developing nations and the underdeveloped nations and the way it is that allows terrorism or anti-money laundering activities to thrive?
There seems to be a symbiotic relationship between poverty and willingness to do crime. And I think globally that has been established, that when a nation is poor, its people can become willing tools in the hands of terrorist agenda. So this is a real issue. So you are looking at poverty and somebody is bringing money to you and say, okay, we want you to go and blow up something, we'll give you $10,000. And that's a big money. And because the guy is poor, like they say, if you have nothing to live for, then you can die for any cause. So this is a real issue. So poverty is what really is the fertile ground or the breeding ground for terrorist activities, because the terrorists feed on the mass of the poor, who are uneducated, who are unenlightened, who cannot think critically. And so you just take advantage of this vulnerable set of people, pledging a whole lot of things to them. And you know, if you don't have money, you can have opportunity to say, okay, you want a good girlfriend. And you can imagine that you are being promised that when you die on the wall, you have 7 virgins waiting for you in heaven. So that could be a very beautiful attraction. So this is the issue. And this is why you see most developing nations fertile breeding ground for terrorist activities, because the people can't think, because they are not well educated. And of course, this is what is feeding that particular tribe of people.
But if the aim is to curb the activities of terrorists, shouldn't it be a two-way traffic? First of all, for those who receive and those who are bringing in. But this seems to be a one-way traffic. It's about countries that receive or countries where the activities are carried out. But what about where the monies are coming from? The countries where
of course. Those
the
also,
individuals...
These guys are also been tagged by the West. Some of them are called rogue states. We already know that these people are rogue states. And all they're doing is to destabilize the international environment. They really don't care about their name anymore. So you see those leaders, and this is why you find that, for example, the West tries so hard to see how to put Saddam Hussein in check, because he's known to be a member of the rogue state, and these are pioneering it. Take for North Korea, for example. They really don't care, and they threaten you anytime. And they want to blow up the world. So these people already know that this is the people. But what I'm saying is that they're also looking for alliances in weaker nations. So the emphasis is actually on the weaker nation, because there's so much sanction against those terrorists and rogue states who are officially terrorists. I imagine when Netanyahu speak about Iran and they say Iran is a state terrorist, because all they do is put money in the hands of terrorists to cause damage globally. Now, this is the way the world is classified. It's just to ensure that the circle of influence of these rogue states is not widening. And I think that's what the Western powers try to do.
All right, if you just joined us, we're looking at the global crime watch list. UAE have exited that list. It's good news also for Uganda and some other countries. While it isn't good news for countries like Kenya and Namibia, who have been added to the list. What's the implication of this has been the discussion. We'll go on a quick break, return to talk more on it. Stay tuned.
In the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress, welcome to Souq News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, Souq News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. Souq News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, Souq News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. Souq News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development with our conversation. Today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Many thanks for being there. It's to Early Exchange, and we are still in the Middle East. Yes, the last time before we went on the break, we were in the United Arab Emirates. We're moving from there shortly, but before we do that, let's bring in a guest who's joining us via Zoom. He is Barrister Jide Ologun, and he is the CIPM Ikeja chapter. Is one of them at the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, and he's from the Ikeja chapter, Lagos. So we're joining us via Zoom on this issue as we look at what the exit from the Global Crime Watch list would mean for the UAE and other countries that have been fortunate enough to have been off that list, and what it also means for those who have been added. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. You know, the implication is that these countries can now be trusted.
Say hello.
Thank you very much. I said these countries can now be trusted for robust business engagement.
So we've been looking at the United Arab Emirates being dropped from the Global Crime Watch list. What's your take on that? What do you think that they had to do in order to exit that list? And for those who have been included now in the list, talking about Kenya and Namibia, what can they do to also exit the list?
You know, let's start with the United Arab Emirates. If you look at the economic policies and the zero tolerance for terrorism that has been expressed in the UAE, for instance, let me make reference to the 6 sponsors of Boko Haram that were identified in Dubai. They were prosecuted and all jailed, 2 to life imprisonment, and the remaining 4 to 10 years imprisonment. And recall that even the Boko Haram operations were not in Dubai, but Dubai just declared that we are not going to open up our space to sponsors of terrorism. And I believe that was a highly commendable exercise that has given them credibility on the list of watching nations that have bias in support of terrorism. And talking about Nigeria now and how Nigeria can exit that list, you recall that the direct victim of Boko Haram, in fact, the fountain of Boko Haram is here in Nigeria. And Nigeria came up at a time to tell the world that they have identified about 400 sponsors of Boko Haram. How many of them have even been brought to justice? That's a big question. So we appear to be talking so much about fighting terrorism and doing so little in practically and effectively fighting terrorism. So, and we are not the ones to go and tell those who are watching the indexes around the world that, okay, we have succeeded in fighting terrorism. They are the ones watching. And it's for them to remove us from the list when we do the needful. And it tells a lot about how nations of the world are willing to do business expressly with you, because in public relations, you talk about economic environment. If your economic environment is stifled by insecurity, which is obvious in Nigeria, for instance, it will be difficult to attract foreign direct investments. So those are the points I can roll out in the interim.
Okay, you just talked about doing the needful. What would that needful be for those countries? Because Nigeria is also one of the countries on that list. What can these countries do exactly?
I just told us what Dubai did. Dubai is not even a country, but one of the Emirates in the United Arab Emirates. Let's assume that out of the 400 identified sponsors of terrorism in Nigeria, that we have prosecuted 100 and jailed even if it's 50, because under our constitution, there is a provision of assumption of innocence. When somebody is alleged to have committed a crime, the prosecuted must prove those allegations beyond all reasonable doubts. And in the criminal justice value chain, you have three strong pillars. You have thorough investigation, diligent prosecution, and a committed judiciary. And Dubai rolled out the names of those who were prosecuted and jailed in Dubai. And when you talk about thorough investigation, by extension, you can investigate those who do business with such characters and be able to go after them and see if you can prosecute them. But recall also in the case of corruption index, you recall Hush Puppy, a Nigerian that was operating his internet fraud from the UAE. He was arrested, released to the United States of America, and he's in jail in the United States of America. So you see that region perceived as helping the world system to fight corruption and to fight terrorism. But have we done that in Nigeria? So if we have done that, why not? And we may be, expecting that someday we'll be taken off the list. And let me say that in Section 15 subsection 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, there is a provision there that the state shall abolish corrupt practices and abuse of office. And by extension, that means you should engage the laws of your land to clean up your environment. And if we have not been seen to do that effectively, then we will remain on the list of those to watch. That means be careful of these people in how you relate with them. And that goes a long way. When you have a caveat on a nation, it's a very serious thing. So we have to work hard to ensure that we clean up our environment. For instance, how can we clamp down on banditry, on terrorism, on kidnapping in our country? We have over 40 law enforcement agencies. How can we ensure that they are effective in dealing with these non-state actors that have become so powerful? But you recall that even at the time, these so-called non-state actors had the resources to bring down fighter jets. They attacked a military formation in Kaduna. They have desecrated. There was an attempt to overrun even the federal capital territory. So we are not just the only ones monitoring this at the local level. The international observers are also monitoring and analyzing this trend to form their conclusions about our nation. So if by next year, for instance, or in the next 6 months, we have about 2 incidences of kidnapping in the country and terrorism, and in 12 months, we bring it down to 1. In 18 months, we have had no report. Then the observers may start considering to list us as a country that is safe. to do business with in terms of security and in terms of internet security also. So these are issues. It's all, you see, in public relations, you talk about image, you talk about reputation. Image is the perception you want to create in the minds of your audience. Reputation is actually about who you are. What do you do? How do you practice what you practice? So that is where we are right now. And there's a Chinese maxim that has been adopted in public relations, which says that you cannot carve a rotten wood, you see. And there's another Chinese maxim that says the best time to have planted a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now. So if we want to be delisted from the list of, terrorism and corruption, then we must begin to carve a solid wood and plant the right tree that will shield us away from this bad reputational profiling.
Okay, let's move away from the UAE and go to Qatar now, where the president of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, will be visiting on the 2nd of March. Now, the Nigerian government had written to the Qatari government about this visit and that it intends to have a business forum with Qatari government to have discussions around business and investment. But initially, Qatar had given reasons why they cannot hold that forum with Nigeria, but later on they reversed that. What do you think had happened and why the initial refusal?
Qatar gave a reason for that, for declining. And the reason given was the lack of a legally binding agreement with Nigeria to promote investment. And that is critical. So you find a region that is serious about corporate governance, that is serious about due diligence. And then perhaps there has been a legally binding agreement signed between then and now. And again, the document explained that the Minister of Commerce and Industry, Sheikh Mohammed bin Hamad bin Kazim Al Thani, on the side of Qatar, will be carrying out official missions outside the country during the upcoming visit. So again, this has to do with protocol. Perhaps that is the person that has been empowered by the government to entertain such a high-profile engagement. And if he will not be available, and you force them to have it, you see, when you are having visitors, visitors cannot force themselves over you. And this is just one of the events lined up, because I understand the president is still expected to travel there to engage the leadership of Qatar on many important matters, covering the full range of diplomatic and economic issues. So Qatar is just saying, if we want to do things, we want to do it well. So if they have excuses and they have been good enough to explain those excuses, then you have to do the needful. And I mentioned a very vital one, that there is no legally binding agreement with Nigeria to promote investment. So let's look in that direction and ensure that we put that in place and, factor out the convenience and the effectiveness, because it will also be a diplomatic slap if our president is there with his team to discuss business at a forum and you are sending a director general to welcome them. So I see a region that has scored high in due diligence and corporate governance. So we should respect that. So, and it's not as if the Qatari government is snubbing our president. No. And again, let me point out a very serious issue of concern here. The leaked note above between the foreign ministries of the countries. How did that leak? So that also touches on the system we run here. There have been times in recent past when the speech of a president got leaked before the president came out to read the speech. So that means we have a lot to tighten in our processes here in Nigeria. But by and large, I believe that, I hope, let me put it in that expression, that forum will still hold. And as Nigeria is going around the world, and I must commend the president to seek collaboration as enshrined under the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations that will be evaluated in year 2030, otherwise called the 2030 Agenda. I also advise that the Nigerian government should see how to put things right at home, because they say charity begins at home. Prosperity also begins at home. So let's see how we can restructure our governance system to upscale integrity, to upscale transparency, and to upscale doing the right things, preventing the oil thieves, the terrorism against the land, and different forms of crime, taming the inflationary rate, and creating an enabling environment that will attract foreign direct investments. Because irrespective of the meetings you have with investors across the world, if you don't have the right environment, you may not attract the right investments.
All right, Barrister Jide Ologun, we have in the studio with us Idahosa Usamanze, who is our INES analyst. I'm going to get his view on this, and then we'll come back to you. Now, Dr. Idahosa, could it be a thing of Qatar talking from both sides of the mouth? Now, initially they had said there is no agreement, no written agreement between Nigeria and Qatar on investments. But afterwards, they decided to have the meeting. What had happened between that time and now? Is it that there is now a written agreement?
Well, I just want to emphasize the last point that our guest has made on air, which is, of course, really worrisome, having to have moles within the seat of power who are feathering the nest of opposition politics, and this is what actually it was. And I don't think there was any need for the hula baloo, especially in the press, of the note verbal that came out from the presidency. And of course, in the realm of diplomatic relations, this happens from time to time. You want a state visit to us, and because diplomacy in its current form is not something that is cast in stone. You see, but you have a president whose foreign policy posture, as we speak, is not just politics, is economic. And so he's going to visit Qatar. He's not just going to visit Qatar because he is looking for a place to visit. That's not the reason. So Qatar is saying, visit us. Yes, you can visit us, but we don't have on our agenda to say, okay, you can come to our chambers of commerce to do things. And he's saying, we can't go to Qatar without talking business, because we're not here to just gallivant. We are here to see what relationship we can establish. You don't need to have an existing economic relation with a country before you start to negotiate one. It starts at some point. And so though we're doing trade with Qatar, because if you look at the statistics in 2023, Nigeria did up to about $77 million US trade between Nigeria and Qatar in terms of plastic. You saw chemicals, unofficial chemicals, and all of this movement that is happening between Doha and Nigeria. And you see that movement is happening. Now, how do we leverage it? Do government just travel and go to a state and say, okay, oh, we are here, we just come, fill Doha and come back? No. The president is deliberate in his approach to foreign policy. And he has stated that clearly, and in all places that he had gone to, is nothing but to talk business. And which, of course, is what the president of the nation should be commended for. So if Qatar wrote a letter to say, oh, yes, we will accept you, but we don't have economic program on the agenda, and government say, look, put it there. So which means, of course, government of Nigeria has been able to actually prevail on Qatar that this visit is not frivolous, this visit is to talk business, and then they have been able to persuade the government of Qatar to accept that, and now that has been included in the visit. And on the 3rd of March, there will be a business forum between Nigerian delegation and, of course, the Qatar Chamber of Commerce. So I don't think it's a case of speaking on both sides. It's now having your advantage in terms of negotiating your way into other nations' sphere of influence.
Talking about Nigeria being able to prevail on Qatar to have that business forum agreed upon, do you think that this leak of the communication between the Nigerian government and the Qatari government had helped, because the initial refusal by Qatar, regardless of the reasons they had gave, had been criticized, heavily criticized by Nigerians. Do you think that also helped in prevailing on the Qatari government?
Well, of course, because the way it was being managed in the press, definitely that was leading to a diplomatic row between Nigeria and Qatar, and I don't think the Qatari government will want that. If it is only the airline business that Qatar have with Nigeria, I think it means lots and so much to them. So they will want to get into that row. Yeah, of course, it could be part of the thing that put pressure on them. But I know that the government of the current regime will insist that if it's going to be a visit, it must be business first. And I think that also to say that, and I think that is where that conversation really became of interest to some people within the villa, because government is saying we are going out, and it's not just going out for going out's sake, but we're going out to see how we can attract foreign direct investment into our economy. Of course, don't forget that Qatar is also doing very well in terms of building infrastructure. They have so much money that can also move around because they're also investing in other regions. We see them in the UAE, we see them doing a whole lot within the Middle East, and because of the power of the oil money. So if we can benefit from that, it will be a plus to us, really taking us from where we are currently to where we should be. But I think sometimes we play politics with a whole lot of things in Nigeria, and that is one of the reasons why we are not doing very well. I saw a young man from Uganda recently and said, Nigerians, the way you talk about your country is just stupid, that you are not, you are making your country look so odd in the eye of the world. And I don't think we should.
Dirty ladies in public.
Yeah, and I don't think that's what we should do with politics. If people want to contest election, I think they should look for really compelling reasons and evidences to win votes rather than run down the country because you just want to be in power. And I think that's the issues that we really need to address.
All right, going forward now, for communications of government, how can they be protected? Is it that these things are not traceable? Because there is an office that handles this communication. In this case, it was the protocol office. So if documents are being leaked when they should not be, what should happen?
Yeah, but this is the problem with our civil service, which is supposed to be non-partisan. But today you have a civil service that is very, very partisan, and they take active part in politics. So this is what you have. So even if the political appointee is the one who is doing this document, he's going to rely on some staff of the department who will do the typing or who will run this errand, and they will be in the know of such communication. And so when they see it and they say it can help their political alignment of thinking, of course they wire it out. So this is what it is. So it will be very difficult to actually, I think, of course, people like that should actually be sorted out. Because if this document got leaked, then of course the ministry or the department responsible should be able to track the email of everybody within that agency and department, and then fish out who actually pushed this thing out, and then appropriate sanction methods, so that other people who are also doing that in other various MDAs should desist from it and stop playing politics with the life of the nation.
On the business side, what kind of business conversations or deals is possible to have between Nigeria and Qatar?
Yeah, like I said, there's a whole lot that's already happening. And I think what we just need to do is to scale this up and also see how, for example, the Qatar government can also take up projects, for example, and invest in Nigeria. Because what the Tinubu government said he wants to do is don't want to borrow so much money. Because of the debt profile, debt to revenue ratio is very low, and government also don't want to do so much of PPP, and government is looking at how do we see nation moving foreign investment to come and do business with you, set up factories here, build infrastructure that you can actually benefit from, then creating employment for people. I think there's a whole lot that can be done between Qatar and Nigeria.
All right, we'll take a break, and then when we come back, it will be time to look at something else. Thank you very much, Osama Nze, for being with me on the show today. He's not only the in-house analyst today, he's become the co-anchor as well. You see how change happens.
Yes.
How promotion happens. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back. Stay tuned.
the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress. Welcome to Souq News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, Souq News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. Souq News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and spur progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, Souq News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. Souq News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions. The National Theatre, Igomu. Built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, FESTAC, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of a legendary contemporary Nigerian artist, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged FESTAC 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Expert Stroll, a Bulgarian company, mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theatre complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of large green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre, Souq Enlightenment. The heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress. Welcome to Souq News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, Souq News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. Souq News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and spur progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, Souq News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. Souq News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development with our conversation. Today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
It's good to know you're still with us on Early Exchange. Now let's turn the conversation to something that concerns Bureau de Change operators in Nigeria, as the CBN has revised the regulatory and supervisory guidelines for Bureau de Change operations in Nigeria. Now, according to the new guidelines, there will be Tier 1 and Tier 2 BDCs. So, and there's also reviewed upwards the license fee for Tier 1 and Tier 2 BDC operations. So for those in Tier 1, they will be allowed to operate nationally and also have franchise, but according to the guidelines, those who are part of the franchise will bear the same name, branding and technology of the parent BDC. But for those who are in the Tier 2, they can operate within the state or the FCTA, and they can have multiple locations, like 3 locations, but they cannot have franchise operations. And so they've also increased the license fee. It ranges from between 2 billion naira to 500 million naira, depending on the tier that the BDC is operating on. Now, the BDCs have been blamed largely for the great fall of the naira to the dollar. Now, sometime in last week in Abuja, the AFCC Economic and Financial Crimes Commission arrested about 250 BDC operators, and this seemed to be in line with that thought too, that the black market operators, or the parallel market as they are called, largely responsible for the fall of the naira. Accusations of speculation have also been in the air towards their direction. It also, Summons is still in the studio. I refuse to let him go. He started the show with me. He will end the show with me.
Yeah. We go nowhere.
Go nowhere. So what's your thoughts on this? First of all, the accusations of the BDCs to be responsible for the fall of the naira, and there have been accusations of speculation before now, but the AFCC going on to arrest some BDC operators that it suspects to be involved in sharp practices such as speculations and even round tripping. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, there's no doubt that there's a whole lot of grand efforts, especially for the BDC operators, to actually sabotage whatever the government is trying to do. And we can't take that sabotage away. And I think it's important. I've said this over and over. Government must be able to put an eye on what people are doing. You see, the way foreign exchange is operated in Nigeria is an eyesore. Is an eyesore. And if that sector is not organized, government will continue to be in the kind of mess it found itself. And I think that's what CBN is trying to do. So you are able to oversight whoever that is connected to this regime so that you don't have illegal people who are unnecessarily speculating the value of Naira in the market. Now you just imagine from the day of floating, government trying to see how to ensure that there's fairness in price so that bank can sell and BDC can sell. But of course the collusion, we cannot take it away, between the banks and the BDC operator seems to be very huge. And that's why you see when the price of the bank is floating, then of course the BDC, they are moving their price up. And this is not really connected to the fact that there are no dollars within the system. It's just a deliberate move to sabotage the government. And I think CBN had to put its feet on the ground. And I think that's the way it is done in other countries. You get to, for example, in the UAE, you have BDC everywhere, but every BDC is a company. And that company is registered. You don't see people changing money on the road. I remember we were having a training in Dera, and I was going to do exchange, change dollar to Naira to do to pay for hotel and the rest of it. At a certain point, they got to me and said, you have exceeded your limit for this month, so you have to wait for next month. And the limit cap was for 10,000 US dollars, and that's the maximum I can do. There's no BDC. They're not born in that BDC where you can sell more than 10,000 to an individual, because CBN is seeing what you're doing. So it's easy to control and to say this is the price we are selling, and nobody is moving on the street with dollar and Naira calculator and say dollar, dollar, dollar. So if you criminalize this activity and ensure that it's only those who are recognized by law sell dollar, we will find the exact value of the Naira.
But coming now to the revised guidelines now, and having two tiers, those who can operate nationally and those who can operate within the state and even franchise, how do you think this is going to help?
Yeah, but I think it's already within the acts, and you see there are some banks, of course, even in the microfinance banking system, you have those who are region-based and you have those who are national-based, and that is depending on the level of your capitalization. And I think that's what...
But that's for the bank, but this are BDCs.
Yeah, but of course, what they do, they trade the money. It's a kind of a bank, really. So these guys are also doing money, and that is why the CBN has oversight over them. That these people, all you deal with is currency, just like any bank. The only thing they don't do is lending. So they buy currency, they sell currency. And so they're doing commercial activity. Now, there's an extent to which you can operate. So if you have high-level capitalization, yeah, you can take the international license. So you have your branches everywhere, and you're actually able to brand it. And we can see this business operating. So we look, this is Boa along this BDC line. So you are thinking that, of course, terrorist funding is coming only from the bank. But the BDC are also a channel through which these people can move their fund. So we need to be able to register these people and see what is their capital base and see the kind of transaction that you can actually do in a week, in a month, or in a year. And if you're doing more than you can carry, then you have to face some interrogation query from the regulators and see where you are getting your money from, who is making the money come to you, and all these things will be able to sanitize it and know what exactly you have and how much you have to sell. So this for me is what it is. And we need this rate documentation in the Nigerian economy. And it's just far more than BDC. And I think in every other sector, the Ministry of Finance also must be thinking this. And the way to go for Nigeria is that we must be registered. Businesses have to be registered. People should not be doing businesses without a name, without an address. And that is why corruption and this is why crime is festering. And for me, it's the right thing to do for the CBN to take a hold on the BDCs and see how Naira and the foreign currencies are moving within the economy. I think for me, it's not anything that is strange. And I think that also within the ambit of the law that established the Bank and the Financial Operations Act 2007, Section 56, I guess, had empowered them to be able to do this control. And that also was stated in the circular.
Okay, so since the CBN is considering increasing the license fee of the BDCs, those who are in Tier 1 will pay as high as 2 billion naira as the share capital. Those who are on the Tier 2 license will pay 500 million naira. But they have previously been charged 35 million naira general license. So do you think this is too much for them?
I don't think it's too much. Also, take, for example, those times they were paying 300 million. What's the value of the naira? Today, as we speak, naira is to dollar is almost about 8,700. And that, if you convert the 2,000 billion, which is the capitalization you're looking at, you see, in terms of its naira value, is a small value. And it's almost within that same threshold, really, because the value had gone down drastically. And then, of course, the volume that they also do will also determine. Because if you say you want to operate nationally, you should have the resource to be able to set up offices across the nation. Because it's not something they should be doing on the street. It should be done on a shop.
All right, so the CBN is also saying that the prescribed minimum capital of BDCs and any subsequent capital injection shall be subject to verification by the CBN, which falls back to what you had said earlier. Yeah. So with this new guidelines around the operations of the BDC, are we going to see a phase out of the currency dealers on the streets?
Yes, of course, it should phase it out, really, if the supervision is done well, so that anybody who's seen it is really not peg what the exact value of naira is at the moment, because the speculation within the system is huge. So if I'm going to buy forex from you as a BDC operator, I should be able to say this is what I need the forex for. So that we are not in Nigeria spending dollars and spending euro. We should spend naira within our economy. And that's what other countries are doing. So if there's a need for you to buy dollar, the government should know what the dollar is meant for. Not for speculation, or you buy and keep, as people currently do, keeping dollars in the house.
So who's going to absorb those currency sellers who are on the street? Will it now create another black market?
No. I don't think that should be a problem. Well organized, some people definitely will be phased out, and then some can get engaged, because if they are establishing and putting offices in the various places, because all those guys you see in the street, they're actually working for people. They are not on their own. And that's why when you go out and see somebody who is saying, oh, he's selling dollar, of course he has to report to somebody else. So those people are the ones that really need to be tracked. And therefore, if they now set up offices, these people that they kept on the street can be working in those offices. And it's like a bank. Everywhere you go in the world, you see them with their system, everybody, and the CBN of that country is able to see whatever transaction is going on the system. And that is what it is. You have 4 or 5 persons with different systems selling and buying. And then the transactions, of course, you have cameras everywhere that monitors what people are doing. And then you are ensuring that, of course, you are not allowed illegal money into your country, money from drug, money from human trafficking, and all those sort of things that people do that are illegal.
So the allegation that the black market is largely responsible for the fall of the naira, do you think if this new guidelines are enforced, it will significantly improve the exchange between the naira and the dollar?
You see, once you sanitize that system and you make it formal, those who are playing, then of course those who are not formal become illegal. And that is what it is. So once that happens, you can know even your stakeholders, those who can call for meetings, to really know what the issues are and see why. Of course, because you have suppliers as it is, and you are saying this is where your supply is coming from, and see whether it's from official source. Because what a lot of people have been speculating is that most of the time banks have to apply to CBN for forex, either for PTA or BTA, and some for Form M. And then, of course, the banks also determine for the person who is applying, if you apply for they say, okay, bank say we take 40%, we take 60%. And what is bank doing with the 40% is what is not known. And most of the time, these are the things that find themselves into the backdoor market. And that is what CBN need to stop. So that if money come into the bank, they should see that it's going through the bank. And even the operator themselves can also apply straight to CBN. And then CBN know what comes into the BDC and how it's going out. And so if bank is coming in to pay to BDC, the CBN should be able to see it, and such banks you can punish.
All right, the conversation will continue after this time. Just stay tuned.
In the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress, welcome to Souq News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, Souq News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. Souq News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, Souq News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. Souq News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions.
My name is Yinka Babalola.
My name is Ijoma Pelokoro.
My name is Joshua Hassan.
I am Rotarian or Mosunde Lawson.
It's Ife Rita Ejeze. My friends call me Ife.
My name is Rosemary Aloladare.
I'm inviting you to keep watching Souq News. It's the right station to tune to.
I like Souq News. Souq News is good.
I want to charge you all to listen to Souq News, watch the news.
You can have unlimited news, first time.
Find Souq News. Be with Souq News. Never switch off. You are better for it. Souq News is the real thing.
Listen to their coverage and you'll be glad you did.
Turn to your YouTube, turn to your Instagram, turn to all your digital channels and look for Souq News.
Keep watching.
Keep watching.
Please, guys, keep watching
Souq News.
Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked the CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history, an important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also a home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893, being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the outer marina through Akpombo early into the Adeniji Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures, this street gives one a raw dose of life in Lagos. Broad Street is often referred to as Lagos Financial District. It boasts a mix of architectural styles, reflecting its long history, colonial-era buildings, Victorian and Edwardian architectural features, alongside more modern skyscrapers and structures. Broad Street remains a vital, vibrant part of Nigerian economy. Broad Street. Souq Enlightenment.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development with our conversation. Today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
It's still an exchange, and the conversation is getting bigger, as Femi Ayodele would say. Of course, it is getting bigger, and it's better get more interesting right now as we look at the revised regulatory guidelines for bureau de change operators by the CBN. Yeah, not yet in force, but the CBN has already put together the regulatory guidelines, and soon when it concludes in it, it will become binding on every BDC operator in Nigeria. Now, the interesting part is this. Let's look at ownership. Who can own, or what company can have a BDC? According to the circular, commercial, merchant, non-interest and payment service banks shall not be allowed to participate in the ownership of BDCs directly or indirectly. Furthermore, it says that other financial institutions, including holding companies and payment service providers, are not permitted to own BDCs. So the question is, who is permitted to own a BDC? If you take out all of these categories of companies or of institutions having a BDC, why can't they even have a BDC?
Yeah, they can, because you see, the system as it is now, you need to be as transparent as possible. And I think that's what it is. So if I'm a bank and I'm owner of BDC, for example, whether microfinance or a development bank or whatever, you see, what can happen is that if I get from CBN, I give to my own operators. So that will create room for rent seeking. So what CBN is trying to do is to ensure that other private citizens like you, like me, who has no interest in the financial service sector, we can own BDC if we have money to invest in that business. So in that way, you're able to see that somehow you're a kind of a middleman. You're supposed to open accounts with a bank where all these transactions are going to happen, so that there's no collaboration or conspiracy between owners of banks and operators of BDC. And I think that's all that is supposed to do. It's just that, you see, you have interest here and you can't have interest here. Otherwise, there'll be conflict of interest.
So the other part is this. Customers with $10,000 and above must declare source of forex. Is this not a bank situation?
Yeah, you should. And that is what I said. I just gave you an example with what I did in UAE. And they said, oh, what are you doing? I told them what I do. And of course, based on what I do, they can determine and estimate how much you are likely to have based on your regular transactions and business. Now, if you are having more than that, then of course you have to say, okay, I have an additional extra source of this income. And I think that's what is the global practice. And that's what we've not been doing here. And that's why you see these crime things we're talking about are festering. Because if you, for example, live in some certain climes in the world and you bought a suit that's worth some certain amount of dollar, of course the police can call you to question you and say, where do you get this money from? Because we know what you earn. So if you are spending more than you are earning, it's either you are making extra earnings that you are not declaring. And in that case, you should be shortchanging government of your tax return and the rest of it. So government need to know what exactly you are doing, what's the source of your income once it gets beyond a certain threshold.
But wouldn't this create some bureaucracy? I'm looking at that. Because in the bank situation, you need Forex. You need to fill a form and let the bank know what you need Forex for. Now, this is supposed to be the parallel market or the black market, where people would think that such formalities are not necessary or should not be there. But if you're creating this, if you're a customer selling or buying $10,000 or above, then you need to declare the source of Forex.
Yes.
So, does that not put a delay before you go through all of that and then you declare, this is what I do, this is what I didn't do?
But
how does that affect transactions, operations within the system?
No, it's not about how convenient it is for the individual. What is the most important is the state knowing the source of your revenue. You see, we're talking about earlier in the show, UAE being delisted from the high-risk index of anti-corruption and terrorist funding. These are the measures that are in place that is enhancing the integrity of the system, that the global player can trust you. And by the way, what is really wrong if they ask you what's the source of your income? You should be able to declare the source of your income if it is legitimate.
I'm looking at the process of declaring.
No, it shouldn't be. It's not difficult. It's okay. I am putting in certain money in the bank. I want to put 1 billion naira in the bank. I should be able to say this money came from my brother from overseas who is doing business, or I sold something and this money come. So government is able to actually put an eye on how money moves within the economy. You see, the real problem here is the fact that we are dealing with the terrorist regime that are moving money from place to place. And so government must be able to have a hold on who is moving what money. So those bureaucracy will not create too much of problems. You declaring and telling the system, this is what you do. And I think they do that. Even in the bank, when you are traveling, immigration asks you, if you have more than $10,000, you have to declare it. So it's to be sure that you are not involved or engaged in money laundering. And this is, of course, a global phenomenon right now, and the whole world is actually putting an eye to see who are the launderers, who are moving money for illicit business owners and the rest of it. So you can put everybody on the front table. We can see who you are, what you do, who you do business with, and that transparency really will enhance the integrity and the rating of the country in the eye of the international community. I think for me is the best thing to do, just like the CBN said from day one, that they are going to focus on regulation, which is the real primary role of CBN, rather than doing commercial activities. It means that, of course, the CBN governor is keeping his words.
All right, it gets more interesting. So payments for all digital transfer purchases of foreign currency by a BDC shall be by transfer to the customer's Naira account. Now, if the customer is non-resident, whether Nigerian or not, a BDC may issue the customer a prepaid Nigerian card. Where such a card is issued, relevant maximum credits and cumulative limits in line with relevant know your customer requirements shall apply. Again, I want to ask, we now have BDC banks, so the formalization of the BDC operation. Yes, you have said that it is for it is good for the financial system and it's good for the government to be able
transparency,
to
accountability.
But given the nature of BDCs, it's an informal setting. Do you think that all of these operations will be seamless? The time for adaptation of this new process?
Let me give you one very simple instance. I remember I was going to send money to Ghana. I have to send dollars from UAE to Ghana. And right there, they told me the BDC, he can't receive it in dollars. He had to receive it in cedis. Because that's the law in Ghana also. So if I'm sending money to you, you receive it in the local currency. And that is exactly the way all nations operate. If you're sending dollar to UAE, you get to UAE, you can't take it in dollar, you take it in the local currency, dirham. I remember Sam was telling you the other day he was going to pay some fine, and they say, oh, you have dollar, convert it to Rwanda franc and go and pay. So this is what happened across country. And I think that's also what we need to do. Because once you are doing that, the pressure on the dollar will not be too much. And if the pressure on the dollar is not too much, this speculative activity that is actually driving the inflation man in the country, of course, will be curtailed.
So having a formalized BDC operation now, at the start of it, how do you think it's going to affect the operations?
It should be seamless.
Should it be?
It should be seamless because, of course, you have to meet some key requirements that if you have to set up, number one, you have systems where transfer can be done. You are not dealing with hard dollars. You have to be from bank to bank. And that's the way it should naturally happen. So if you see the setup in every country that I've been to, you can't differentiate between the BDCs and the bank. The only difference is the fact that they cannot offer loan services. So it's only buying and selling. So when you get to the counter, you see the tellers who are sitting down, they take your money, they count it, and they give you the local currency. And if it is transfer you want to do, they take your dollar and then they wire it for you. So this is the way it operates. So it's formal.
All right. So it also, the new guidelines also makes provision for those who are eligible for sale or purchase of the Forex. So it says that Forex sales by BDCs must fall within the scope of personal travel allowance, which is PTA, and business travel allowance, provided that the person who receives BTA on behalf of a non-individual entity shall not be entitled to PTA for the same period. Now, others are medical bills, payment of school fees, and the repurchase of unused naira from a non-resident from whom the BDC had sourced foreign currency. But all of these things, the way the parallel market was designed, should these restrictions be there? People have want to have Forex for different reasons. Now, that it doesn't fall into this category, does it make it illicit or does it make it illegal?
Well, I give you a scenario. About 3 years ago, somebody told me and said, you know, the best business you need to do now is to buy dollar. Because they are hoping that you are going to be able to distort the market and the prices grow up. So if you see the movement, for example, of dollar from 700 7 months ago to 1,700, look at the percentage rise. Which business can you do on earth that can give you that return? So this is a problem. And this is what all of us are paying for. Because some people are speculating the naira and the dollar. So you have naira, you go and buy dollar and keep to sell later. So it has become a trade. So what CBN is doing, let's even really know what's actually the dollar need of our economy. Those who want to do foreign trade or importation, of course they can buy. Those who are traveling, maybe for holiday, they can buy. Those who are going for educational purpose, they can buy. Those who are sick, who want to seek medical attention, they can buy. Or you have, for example, naira that you are not using, Of course, you can convert it if you are not resident here and you need the money outside. Now, these are legitimate. But for an individual to take money, to go and buy dollar and keep when he has no use of it, should be criminalized. Because we are not a dollar economy, we are a naira economy. So why should we be buying dollars to keep? Except that the motive is to distort the demand-supply arrangement of the dollar. So this is why, for me, it's important that CBN put its feet on the ground, that if you have no need of dollar, there's no need to go to Bureau de Change or go to the bank to go and apply for dollars.
All right, so as it is right now, what are we expected to see if this guideline comes into force fully? What's changed, and what appreciation is it expected to give the naira? Would it then mean that the problem of the naira depreciating constantly against the dollar had been an issue of the parallel markets?
Yeah, because that's what it is this speculative activity. I just told you now.
But what about the argument that the reason the naira continually fails or has been falling against the dollar is because not much production activities have been ongoing?
No. It's not a unilateral factor. That because we are not producing. We have been in this type of economy for ages. And we were able to run, and we don't have this sudden destruction that we are currently having. I just told you, this is a private citizen who told me 3 years ago, I'm not talking about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Nigerians have started to speculate on how to trade dollars. And so people were buying physically dollar to keep. So that when the value gets up, you sell it. That's what I'm saying to you. There's no business you can do to get the kind of a return that those who are trading in currency are currently getting. So what it will even mean for you is that it will make production activity even redundant, because why do I need to go and open an office if I can stay in my house and just buy some money and keep, and after 2 months I sell it and make so much gain and profit? This should not be in an economy. Now, we only need foreign exchange if we have to do business with other country. And if we are not doing any business with other country, we don't need to keep our value or hedge our fund in foreign currency in our local land. What that means is that you cannot actually determine what is the dollar need of your economy. So what you're doing is that people speculate, they buy keep, and they are not willing to use it. So it's only those who need the dollar should actually go to the bank and buy. And in that case, we will know how this money is moving around, and this pressure of not able to control inflation by both fiscal and monetary policy will be addressed to a very large extent. There are nations that are doing purely commercial activity. Take, for example, UAE. UAE is almost 85 to 90% import-led economy. Since I've been to UAE from 2007 till now, the exchange rate of dollar to dirham had remained between 3.64 to 3.66. It has never gone beyond that level. So the argument that is because we are not productive, that is why the exchange rate is not. It is a speculative activity in the uncontrolled foreign exchange market that is actually the issue. So when Nigeria can control what is happening there, a whole lot can happen. So because people feel that if you steal so much in naira, you can actually keep the value in dollar. You are hedging your fund in dollar. So this is all the things that is happening in that market. And that is actually what is responsible for the inflation rate. Because even if you go to buy common vegetable here now, it's affecting us already. And all of us are paying that price. Because you're seeing prices go in geometric progression, and even your salary is not even moving at arithmetic because it's static. And so the value of what you hold is actually going down. And then government must find a way to stop that sharp practices within the market.
As a wrap up, 2 questions quickly. 1, do you foresee a major situation for some BDCs that may want to get the Tier 1 license? And then secondly, do you also foresee a situation where, because of the restrictions now, there will be another kind of black market created where people trade but not register. People trade in the forex, but they are not registered.
Because
they want to operate a free market.
Yeah. Number one, mergers and acquisition, they are features of business globally. People can acquire other businesses. I'm even looking up to that opportunity to say that most of the BDC operators even are quoted in the Nigerian Stock Exchange market, so that it's not just owned by one person, it's actually owned by the public. I am looking forward to that situation, not just that people are merging, that people actually are to buy stake in some of those operations. So that would be real normal and formal for Nigerian society. I'm also expecting that now that if there's no law, there's no offense. Now that there's regulation, EFCC, the Nigerian police, DSS should go out there and see those who are dealing with currency outside the regulations and then make a public show of them. So once these people are dealt with, then of course nobody will want to do that, especially make the consequence real serious so that it will discourage people from participating in those illicit trade. Otherwise, we will continue to remain on that terrorism risk index, and people will not want to do business with us. And all the efforts of the government in terms of economic diplomacy to see how to create an enabling environment where, of course, we can collectively share prosperity will be a waste. So I feel that what CBN is doing is the right thing to do, and the agencies of government need to give CBN the necessary support, because this circular on its own will not be able to bring sanity into the market. So the Nigerian police, the EFCC, the ICPC, and all the agencies that are empowered to enforce the law should go out in full force to bring sanity to the market, so that there are no speculations, undue speculations in the market, and those who need the BDC, the foreign exchange, to actually do business, that money gets to them. Now, as we have now, you have people who have queued up in the bank for 6 months, 3 months, and they are waiting for foreign exchange and they cannot get. And yes, some people are buying it and keeping it in their house. Those people are enemy of the nations, of the nation, and I think the law enforcement officers should go after them and then ensure that we have sanity in the forest market in Nigeria.
The Director, Research and Policy, African Development Studies Center, and also the Vice President, Souq News, our Ines analyst. Thank you very much for being with me on the show today, from start till the end. It's been a wonderful time with you. And your contributions on the show, of course, are always invaluable, because you bring so much to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Blessing, for having me all day today.
All right, the hope of the common man is to see that the exchange rate between the naira and the dollar closes, and so that because Nigeria is largely an import-dependent nation, they can buy, or their purchasing power can increase. That is the hope of the common man. We hope that whatever the CBN is planning on doing, particularly regarding the revised regulatory guidelines for operations of the BDC, works out well and produces the desired result. That is the hope, and thank you for being on the show, watching the show today. We can do this again tomorrow, 8 a.m. West African time. Remember, that is when Early Exchange starts. There are many wonderful programs for your viewing delight on Souq News here. Market Insight comes up at 11. There will be sports at noon, and there will be Souq Post at 4. I am Blessing A.J. Enjoy your day.